Good morning, everybody. I am going to continue this streak and do 2 weeks in a row of something that I said I'd do. That's quite the accomplishment. Housekeeping. Someone told me that I should maybe change the spelling of Reverend, and so I'm looking into that, making it more into a contraction rather than a verb. So we'll see. Always interested in those sorts of items. It was a nickname suggested to me sophomore or junior year of college by a friend at college because I was a runner and everyone knew I wanted to be a pastor. Of course, everyone at Moody wanted to be a pastor. But anyhow, also, I know it looks weird that there are multiple names attached to this YouTube page. The main thing being my Google handle is GWN fan, and I want to explain that to people who don't know. If you're not part of a very small group of people from Sturgis, Michigan, you're probably very confused. So let me just explain a little bit with some illustrations. You see this guy right here? This is Pro Happy Darth Vader, and for those who were not aware, back in high school, I made a movie. Well, my best friend and I went through the effort of creating a movie, and you will notice that I reference Darth Vader a lot, if people know me, and I draw this dude on a lot of different things. This is a nice little flag. Imagine more. There's Trogdor, and there is Deuce Bane, aka Super Fro. So, as a slight caveat, I'm going to tie two things together. One thing that I frequently think about is how the youth today, I'm not old enough to be saying it, though yesterday is my birthday, the youth of the modern day, since 2012 on, didn't get to experience a lot of what makes childhood great. Now, I am definitely not the guy who says latchkey kids is a good thing, but there's an in-between where we shouldn't just be on our screens having parents hovering around us, making sure that everything is curated and protected, having the lawnmower mowing out the path in front of us in life. We need to be creative, we need to be imaginative, and we need to find outlets to work through our thoughts and our emotions. In high school, all my close friends and I, we worked in the cornfields over the summer, this thing called detasseling, basically we were genetically engineering corn. We were hired to pull tassels from 4 rows of corn, so that way a different breed of corn on the outside of those 4 rows would cross-pollinate and then create a new hybrid corn that those seeds would be used to plant the next year. Anyhow, so while we were walking the cornfields during the summer, my friends and I talked about what should we do. And so my best friend Scott, he had created this PowerPoint comic book series, and it was I would call it a satirical take on the comic book story arcs, characters, the heroic tropes, which is really amusing because a few years after we had made this movie, someone made a satire superhero movie making fun of all superheroes. Scott did it before all of them. To be hipster, we did it before his school. But anyhow, I really enjoyed these comics, and I think he maybe showed a few other people. Might have been for school, I wasn't sure. But anyhow, we are talking while we're out in the cornfield, probably 95 degrees, 95% humidity, corn up to our shoulders high, and probably, heat exhaustion. And we just thought it'd be really funny to make a movie out of all this. Spider-Man came out just a couple years before we made this, just before we started talking about it. So then every summer during high school, and then throughout the school year, we had gathered a group of us together, kind of went through the process of writing out a script, tried to make the scenes that we do, and we figured out who would be different characters, and we then shot the movie over the course of these years, and tried editing. And the reason why I want to say I was part of it, not as much I made it, Scott and Kyle did a lot more of the editing and a lot more of the nitty-gritty stuff than I did. So they get more credit. But anyhow, we made most of that movie, shot most of that movie over 3 years, and edited about half of it. Because the editing software that we had, ULead Studio 7, I think is what it was the most frustrating editing software around. You'd save all your files, and then the next day it scrambled the order of what was where. You know, one day it'd be by date, the other time it'd be by file size, or I don't even know. So it was impossible to find the film that you were trying to copy from. And it was, I think, one of the last era of video cameras that actually had a form of film in it. So you watch some of the scenes, you can hear the film recording. I bring this up mostly because it's part of my YouTube and Google handle, so people are probably wondering, what does GWN fan stand for, and is he GWN fan, is he Ben Murray, is he Rev Rund? We'll find out, we'll figure it out. But anyhow, with all that to say, I don't see kids doing these sort of things anymore, or I went sledding a lot. I ran around the block with my friends, training for cross country in the summer. I would set up different shooting courses for basketball with my brothers. I just see a lot of people missing out on things that were formative of my growing up. And so I'm not expecting kids to make feature-length films, but I would love people to just comment, and I actually have a survey that I'm going to pass out through the church. What made your childhood great? And then try to figure out ways that as a church community we can reproduce that with kids, because I don't want the current generations to look back on their childhood and only remember screens. So that being said, I want to give a shout out to the generation of kids that I coached that are currently collegiate athletes. Their seasons are starting, and so we have Isaac Jones and Meg Simmons are running Division I cross country and track there at Western Illinois. Nick Houston, Avery, and Caden, and Hunter, and Tyler are all playing college football at different places spread across. And then Kira, she is running cross country for Monmouth. So right now, almost all the athletes that I mentioned are in a very small isolated part in Illinois, but just huge shout out to Isaac, Meg, Nick, Avery, Caden, Kira, Hunter, and Tyler. And I guess the OG, Amanda, she went and played softball. She was one of my cross-country athletes, but she's graduated since. But huge shout out to people who are putting in the work to go to college, and a lot of them are freshmen this year. This is their first season, and it's a lot of work. College athletics is really difficult. And this is for Nick. Yes, I know college athletics are hard because I played 1 year college basketball. Anyhow, so speaking of basketball, nobody asked me for this, but I want to quick list off what I think would be an incredibly fun group of basketball players to have been on a professional team together. This is a group of people who I don't think any of them won an NBA championship, and they're not necessarily any of them multiple times first team All-NBA, but I just think they'd be really, really fun to watch together. If I was good at editing, I'd throw their names up on the board, on the video. I'm not there yet. Please just be patient. But at point guard, Steve Francis, super fun, super athletic. His double clutch reverse dunk during the dunk competition was one that was just always sticks out of my head. And at one point in my life, I recreated that dunk. And by recreated, I mean it's really similar, probably nowhere near as cool or impressive. At shooting guard, Jamal Crawford, the dude was a walking bucket, also had a lot of assists in his career, was typically a sixth man is what people considered him. Played for a lot of years. I know him and Steve Francis are both ball-heavy guards, but you know what? They'd figure out a way. At small forward, Andrei Kirilenko, AK-47. People forget about him. He's one of the original, I would call him 3-and-D guys of the 90s. Was part of that group of people before the three-point was popularized to have a big man shoot it. He'd probably be more of a power forward in the modern game, but I put him at small forward. Power forward, Sean Kemp. I just imagine with how aggressive Steve Francis and Jamal Crawford were with the ball, Sean Kemp will get a lot of lobs thrown his way. And then at center, Arvydas Sabonis, the biggest what-if, in my opinion, in NBA history. The dude could pass and had all the skills. So put him around any of these guys, it'd be Lob City again. And then off the bench, I would love to have Nick Van Exel, Bobby Jackson, and Shannon Brown. Again, point guard, shooting guards that were really fun to watch. Shannon Brown, one of my favorite players to watch at Michigan State. He had an okay NBA career. The dude could jump out of the building, though. And then if I could add one player to this who I think would be a cheat because he did get an NBA championship and frequently was an All-NBA or All-Star player, Rasheed Wallace, just super, super fun. But I give this because I just wanted to give that out to the internet, that here would be some really fun guys to play with or to watch. And so in life news, so I mentioned my birthday was recent, so it was yesterday, and there's this joke that when you get older, you get injured doing anything and everything, or at the moment that as a runner you're really getting consistent training, the injury sneaks up on you, and I rolled my ankle on Tuesday on a run. And so I took 2 days off, went for a run this morning, shorter run, it felt okay, and then I had to carry my youngest back from walking my middle child to school, and my foot definitely feels that. So anyhow, a buddy of mine, Andrew, he has a birthday similar date. He said, welcome to the downhill part of the 30s. We're rolling towards 40. How you feeling? And I was just like, oh man, he doesn't even know. I'm feeling it. But I'm also feeling good. I work out. I run twice a week with a group of guys here. F3 is a group of faith-based family fitness. I think that's what it stands for. David will probably correct me, but anyhow, I run with a group of guys 2 days a week, but it's a group that meets 5:30, 7 days a week in the greater Toledo area. So shout out to all of them. But anyhow, also with life news, we got a puppy on Saturday of last week. So he's an adorable little guy. And for the people who didn't know, we had a cat. We have a cat. We have a black cat. It's a rescue cat. His name is Odin, O-D-I-N, but a lot of people think O-D-E-N, like the Norse god, which is not a great name for a passer to have for a cat, but it's a rescue cat. The name for the puppy might be worse. It's Goliath. So definitely not a hero of the Bible, not someone that a passer would name a dog that they have affection for after, but again, it was a rescue. But I felt this time I just needed to get a goldfish, name it Erasmus, and for those people who get why a Lutheran pastor shouldn't name a fish Erasmus, good job. For those who don't know it, ask in the comments. But anyhow, you'll see behind me if you watch the video, there is a mess. I'm gonna be moving office. I mentioned that, and we're getting really close. But you'll see a stack of these. This is Sunday school material that I made. I mentioned it last week. I finalized it and printed it out, made booklets, stapled it. Here's a really impressive stapler. I love it. And working through Titus, I just thought should be noted, though, the reason why Titus kind of popped in my brain. So Brittany's uncle, he'd worked with the youth a long time. I bet he's still working with them. He had mentioned how a verse that he frequently brought up whenever, as in small group situations with junior high or senior high kids, was Titus 2:11 through 14. And it says, "For God's salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us to deny ungodliness and worldly desires, and teaching us to live self-controlled and righteous and pleasing lives in this present age, by waiting for the blessed hope and the appearing of our glorious and great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us, in order that he might ransom us from all lawlessness and unrighteousness to himself, a people who are specially chosen and eager to do good works." That's my personal translation that I worked out. But the beauty of that passage is it's kind of, that noise was the workbook slipping down. The beauty of that passage is that's Christianity in a nutshell. Is we're saved not because of our work, but it's God ransoming us. And we aren't saved because we do good works, but the beauty is that because of the hope of our salvation and the truth of being ransomed people, we are eager to do good works because we're showing that our allegiance is not to the ways of this world and the desires of this world, but our allegiance is to Jesus Christ. And so that's a shout out to John Green, for just that little nugget that he gave the one time of, he's like, yeah, I always like to reference this passage whenever we're in small groups and kids are talking about stuff and maybe what they're struggling with. And the truth of Scripture is we are called to go the other way as people. But so I'm preaching again this Sunday. For those who don't know, I preached like every Sunday of the year at my previous church, and I try to whittle that down over the years to make sure other people, I shared the pulpit and more voices were heard, more gifts were heard. So I'm going to be preaching 12 to 14 times here as the associate, and the reason why I'm preaching right now is the head pastor, he is out on a 3-week vacation in Europe, and I look forward to hearing how fantastic that vacation was. Hopefully he's so disconnected from the internet that he doesn't even see this until he gets back. That's my hope in all of that. But the sermon that I'm going to be preaching on is, what is the value of church? And like, if I were to ask you right now, why do you go to church? Or why don't you go to church? I'm sure I would get a myriad of answers. And that's just something I want to dig into, because I think it's very easy as people of faith, and this is in every faith tradition, so I'll be a little inclusive there, to just do things because it's tradition and ritual, and it's easier to just keep a rhythm rather than do something different. I love people coming to church, but the reason why you come to church is not just simply because it's Sunday. The reason why you come to church is because this should be the gathering of believers celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ, encouraging one another towards love and good works, pushing each other to be better, equipping each other to more, and then the different parts of the Sunday service are reminding us of big truths. And so I'll be talking more about that on Sunday. Now, I'm going to wrap this up. It's about 20 minutes, and hopefully in future times I'll be interviewing someone alongside me. In the new office, we're going to try to set it up that there's 2 microphones, and we'll try to work that out recording-wise. I am not tech-savvy, despite being a millennial. And despite having helped make a movie, that's why, again, it was Scott gets a lot of the credit. He did more of the editing, not me. But I want to interview some folks, and I want to give them a chance to tell their story about how, so my thing that I stated at the last one, so ad infinitum, or to infinity, Reflectus. My Latin is terrible. I never took a Latin class, but essentially the image of God is reflected through all people in glorious ways. And just interviewing people. Some of them are going to be non-profit people. Some of them are going to be older people. Some of them are younger. I would love to get some of my former athletes and interview them about what they're doing in life. But I just want to get an interview part because there's people who have really fantastic stories to tell. And I want to use this as a platform to make sure people know, especially about some nonprofits, especially in West Michigan, Certain Hope Community. I want to interview them, not just because I have biological ties to them because they're family, but because they're wonderful people, and what they're doing out there in West Michigan is fantastic. And like I said, I want to interview some older folks from the congregation who have stories to tell. There's people in this church who had parents or grandparents who served during World War II, and just conversations about what was it like. So anyhow, God bless, and I hope you appreciated that I actually wrote down what I wanted to talk through, and I'll leave on this note. Imagine more. This is both use your imagination more and imagine that more can be. Don't have your brain stuck to a small amount of thinking, but think bigger. All right.